After leaving Blue Spring State Park, it was time to head south on I-95 to warmer weather in the Florida Keys. We took 2 days to get to the Keys with a quick overnight stay at Jonathan Dickinson State Park, before continuing our trip to John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park in Key Largo. We were very fortunate to be able to reserve a campsite for 2 weeks at this great park. Established in 1963, John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park was the first undersea park in the United States. The park was named for the late John D. Pennekamp, a Miami newspaper editor whose efforts contributed to the establishments of the Everglades National Park and the preservation of the Key Largo Coral Reef. The park covers approximately 70 nautical square miles of coral reefs, seagrass beds, and mangrove swamps. The park extends 3 miles into the Atlantic Ocean and is approximately 25 miles in length. These areas were established to protect and preserve a portion of the only living coral reef in the continental United States. The campground at John Pennekamp is relatively small with only 46 sites. The park complex is relatively active with a dive shop, a visitor center and aquarium, and 2 beaches. There are boats to rent as well as kayaks and canoes to explore the mangrove swamps. Sue, Cassie, and I spent a lot of time just walking around the complex, experiencing the tropical vegetation and birds. Cassie was especially intrigued by the lizards. We enjoyed sitting by the water with some great views. But the coral formations and associated marine life is what most visitors come here to enjoy. So Sue and I decided to take the 2.5-hour glass-bottom boat tour out to the reefs. Pretty good swells.
Now these big silver fish that are hugging you guys have a reef shark coming towards you.
Yeah. So just so the other
There he is, yeah. You guys got him? Yeah. Oh, nice. You guys see him right there? Awesome. So we don't always get to...
Those are yellowtails. had one of those for lunch yesterday. Key Largo is the first of many keys that are accessible by driving US Highway 1. There are many keys and towns to drive through to get to the southernmost point of the Florida Keys. It is a little over 100 miles and takes over 2 hours to drive from Key Largo to Key West. During our stay at John Pennekamp, we rented a car to explore the Keys. Since we have been to Key West twice before, we decided not to go to this very popular and crowded city. For this stay in the Keys, we decided to take a short drive to Windley Key Fossil Reef Geological State Park. Windley Key was homesteaded by the Russell family in the mid-1900s and established a small farming and fishing community. Formed of Key Largo limestone, this land was sold to the Florida East Coast Railroad in 1908 and was used to build Henry Flagler's overseas railroad to Key West. Quarries were dug and used to supply thousands of tons of limestone fill for the railroad bed and bridge approaches. The railroad was completed in 1912. After the railroad was built, the quarry was used until the 1960s. Cuts of the Key Largo limestone revealed fossil corals and other ancient marine life formed nearly 125,000 years ago. The limestone was used to produce exquisite pieces of decorative building stone called keystone. At Windley Key, visitors can walk within the 8-foot-high walls to see cross-sections of the ancient coral reef. There are 1.5 miles of self-guided trails that wind through a tropical hardwood hammock. On display are samples of the quarry machinery that have been preserved at the park. Sue, Cassie, and I enjoyed the hike and learning about the quarry and its operations. That's really coral, huh?
Yep.
Look at it.
You can see
How they've cut it.
Yep.
You want to know what this tree is here.
I mean, look at this. It's
like a shell.
A shell or fan.
Yeah, a fan coral. Yeah. I don't see any flowers anywhere. Smells good. Cassie's not sure about the Florida Keys heat. Even in the shade. I still want to know what the red, smooth tree is. Oh, look at this one. It's cool. Look how big it is. Gumbo Limbo. staying in the Florida Keys, Sue and I wanted to visit 2 other state parks that are popular and offer camping. We climbed in our rental car with Cassie and headed down US 1 with stops at Bahia Honda State Park and Curry Hammocks State Park. Along with its iconic Florida Keys scenery, Bahia Honda has sandy beaches, clear waters, and magnificent sunsets. Curry Hammock is striking in its seclusion and is the largest undeveloped parcel of land between Key Largo and Big Pine Key. Driving this southernmost portion of US 1, also known as the Overseas Highway, has to be one of the most beautiful drives in the U.S. A modern wonder, the 113 miles of roadway from Key Largo to Key West incorporates 42 bridges leapfrogging from key to key. Parallel to US 1, you can see remnants of Henry Flagler's Overseas Railroad for much of this drive. Bahia Honda encompasses 524 acres with extensive sandy beaches and many marine plants and animal species of Caribbean origin. This remote island became a tropical destination for tourists when Henry Flagler's Overseas Railroad to Key West was completed in the early 1900s. Sue, Cassie, and I spent most of our time exploring the area around Calusa Beach and Loggerhead Beach, as well as at the campground. We not only saw the old Flagler Railroad Bridge, but we also hiked up it for some great views of the park, channel, and the ocean. Our stop at Curry Hammock State Park was a brief one. We primarily stopped there to see the campground to consider a future stay. We found a very secluded park just north of the city of Marathon. It was beautiful in its own right as the park protects large areas of mangrove swamp, rockland hammocks, and seagrass beds. We enjoyed our visits to both state parks. We hope that someday we will be fortunate enough to stay at one or both of the campgrounds.
See them splashing?
Curry Hammock. Nice view. While visiting the Florida Keys, we made a few other stops with great views, including the Sunset Park at Key Colony Beach in Marathon, Wahoo's Seafood Bar and Grill in Islamorada, the Buzzard's Roost restaurant in Key Largo, and the Caribbean Club, famous as the filming location for Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall's 1947 movie Key Largo. We had a great 2 weeks in the Florida Keys, and we'll be back again as snowbirds. But now it is time to head up to the Gulf Coast and to one of our favorite areas in Florida, Siesta Key.